Welcome back to the final session of Shakespeare. We stopped last time on talking about interpretive flexibility. There is something remarkable. Scholars and artists have interpreted Shakespeare through virtually every theoretical lens. Victorian scholars emphasized moral lessons. Early 20th century scholars focused on psychological depth. Mid-century scholars applied Marxist analysis to power dynamics. Feminist scholars revealed gender issues in the plays. Post-colonial scholars examined racism and imperialism. Contemporary scholars look at disability, neurodiversity, environmental themes. Each interpretation reveals something true about the plays. The plays are rich enough to accommodate multiple readings. This richness ensures continued relevance. Each new generation finds itself in Shakespeare. Reward for engagement. Why should we care? Studying Shakespeare develops critical skills that are transferable to any complex text. Reading Shakespeare expands vocabulary and rhetorical sophistication. Understanding Shakespeare's psychological insight into character helps you understand the human motivation and the behavior. Engaging with Shakespeare's moral ambiguity teaches you that complex situations do not always have easy answers. Additionally, Shakespeare is beautiful. There is passages in Shakespeare that are fine as human language. Language gets reading him improves your own use of language. The paradox of Shakespeare. Here is the paradox. Shakespeare is simultaneously 400 years old and completely current. His plays feel ancient. They're about kings and witches and feudal politics, yet they feel immediate. The emotions are real. Psychological insights are inaccurate. The moral questions matter. This paradox explains his persistence, his neither historical artifact to be studied in museums, nor a contemporary writer we might dismiss for being slightly outdated. He breaks or he speaks across time. So, Shakespeare's influence on modern culture. Shakespeare's influence extends far beyond theater and literature, permeating popular cultures in ways that demonstrates his continued relevance. His plots, characters, and the language appears in countless adaptations, appropriations, and references across media, cultures, and language. This cultural omnipresence testifies to the universality of Shakespeare's themes and the flexibility of his works to accommodate diverse interpretations. Film and television. Shakespeare's plays have inspired hundreds of films, from faithful adaptations to loose reimaginings. And we spoke about this earlier. Literature. Contemporary writers continually engage with Shakespeare through retelling, response, and illusion. Margaret Atwood's Hag Seed reimagines the Tempest. Tom Stoppard and Guildstern Our Dead focuses on Hamlet's minor characters, and we spoke about this as well. Global adaptations. Shakespeare travels cross-culture remarkably well with productions in virtually every language and setting. And we spoke about language and everyday expression as well. We talk about this cultural situation means students already know more Shakespeare than they realize. Recognizing these connections helps demonstrates relevance and opens conversations about how classic works remain alive through adaptation and reinterpretation, rather than museum pieces requiring dutiful study. Shakespeare's plays function as living texts that each generation makes its own, finding a new meanings that speak to contemporary concerns while maintaining connections to original works, essential insights into human nature. Now let's go to chapter 5, student engagement and assessment. Effective Shakespeare education combines knowledge transmission with active engagement, encouraging students to move beyond passive reception toward creative interpretation and personal connection. This final chapter presents strategies for interpretive learning and assessment methods that evaluate both comprehension and critical thinking. um, Interpretive learning activities, active learning strategies transform Shakespeare study from potentially intimidating obligation into ongoing exploration. The following activities accommodate different learning styles while building multiple competencies, research skills, collaborative abilities, creative thinking, and analytical writing. Digital scavenger hunts create online research challenges about Elizabethan theatre, Shakespeare's biography, and the historical context. Students use reputable websites, Vulgar, Shakespeare's library, Globe Theatre, British Literary, to find answers about topics like theatre, architect, architecture, 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 daily life in Renaissance London, or contemporary political events. This builds research skills while making historical context tangible and interesting rather than dry background information. Modernization uh, projects groups select a scene from Shakespeare's play and adapt it to contemporary setting and language while preserving essential plot themes and character relationships. Students must justify their choices, explaining how modern equivalents capture original meanings. This requires deep understanding of the scene's function, demonstrating comprehension through creative transformation. Final products can be performed, filmed, or presented as scripts with director's notes. Analytical writing, essay assignments should move beyond plot summary toward argument and analysis. Effective prompts ask students to compare characters, traits, imagery, patterns, analyze themes, or evaluate critical interpretations. Provide clear rubrics emphasizing these development, textual evidence, and the logical argumentation. Peer review workshops help students improve draft essays through structured feedback. Comprehension quizzes. Regular low stakes quizzes ensure students complete readings and grasp basic plot and character information. Include questions about biographical facts, historical context, and the key quotations. These quizzes should be frequent enough to encourage consistent encouragement, but not too punitive that they create an anxiety. Consider allowing open notes quizzes that test understanding rather than memorization. Performance workshops, dedicate class time to staging short scenes or monologues. Students experiment with blocking, vocal delivery, and character interpretation. Even simple staged readings, no costumes or memorization required, help students understand how performance choices affect meaning and reveal textual ambiguities that silent reading obscures. Film comparison analysis. Watch two film versions of the same play or scene. Taking notes on directorial choices regarding settings, casting, editing, and emphasis. Students write comparative analysis explaining how different interpretations create different meaning, supporting arguments with specific examples from both films and the text. Discussion forums, online or in class discussions encourage students to share interpretations, ask questions, and debate meanings, structure discussions with specific prompts rather than general "what did you think?" questions. Consider controversial topics fall is Shylock sympathetic? Is Hamlet mad? That generate genuine disagreement and require textual evidence to support positions. Assessment criteria and outcomes. Effective assessment measures multiple competencies while providing feedback that helps students prove clear criteria should be communicated before assignments, allowing students to understand expectations and self-assess their work. Assessment should balance formative feedback during learning with summative evaluation after learning, recognizing that understanding Shakespeare develops gradually through repeated exposure and practice. Analytical writing, essays, and written analysis demonstrating close reading skills, argumentation, and understanding of themes, language, and context. Discussion participation, active engagement in class discussion, group work, and collaborative activities showing preparation and article thinking. Creative projects, performing work, adaptations, and multimedia projects demonstrating interpretive understanding through creative application. Quizzes, tests, regular assessment of comprehensive covering plot, characters, quotations, biographical facts, and historical contexts. Key assessment objectives. Analytical skills, students demonstrate ability to closely read texts, identify literary techniques, and construct arguments supported by textual evidence. Historical understanding, students contextualize works within Elizabethan culture and face and trace influences on later literature and culture. Interpretive flexibility, students recognize textual ambiguities and multiple valid interpretations rather than seeking single correct readings. Performance awareness. Students understand plays as theoretical events, considering how staging choices affect meaning. Personal connection. Students relate Shakespeare's theme to contemporary issues and their own experiences, finding relevance in historical material. Assessment feedback should be specific and actionable, identifying both strengths and areas for improvement rather than simply making errors. Effective feedback explains why something works or doesn't work, provides models of stronger approaches, and encourages revision. Consider allowing revision opportunities where students can improve work based on feedback, emphasizing learning over punishment. This approach recognizes that understanding Shakespeare is challenging and develops through practical risk taking and gradual skill building rather than immediate mastery. Conclusion. The endurance legacy of Shakespeare. Final reflection: why Shakespeare still matters. Let me offer some final reflection on why we still regarding watching and arguing about Shakespeare. First of all, Shakespeare philosophical depth. Hamlet doesn't just tell us a story about a prince seeking revenge, it asks fundamental questions. What the meaning of existence? How should we respond to justice? What separates sanity from madness? King Lear doesn't just show us a king losing his kingdom. It asks what makes us human when we're stripped of power and status. These are the questions philosophers have wrestled with for millennia. Shakespeare doesn't answer them definitely, but he poses them with such clarity and humanity that we're compelled to answer them all other ourselves. Shakespeare's psychological insight. Shakespeare understood human nature with remarkable depth. Characters are contradictory, capable of love and cruelty. Simultaneously, characters deceive themselves and others. Characters want incompatible things and suffer from internal conflict. This psychological realism, developed 400 years ago, remains sophisticated by contemporary standards. Shakespeare linguistic achievement. Shakespeare didn't invent most of the words he used, but he combined them in new ways, creating languages that simultaneously accessible and profound. His metaphors illuminate experience, his rhythms are musical, his wordplay reveals language instability and richness. Reading Shakespeare improves your language use because you're encountering language at its most brilliant. Shakespeare as a mirror. Here is something crucial. Each generation discovers themselves in Shakespeare. Victorians saw Shakespeare as teaching moral lessons. The Romantic era saw him as a genius of imagination and emotion. The 20th century saw psychological depth and complexity. The 21st century sees diverse interpretations, gender fluidity, and multicultural resonance. This isn't because Shakespeare's changed, it's because great art contains multitudes, layers of meaning that different people and eras can discover depending on what they are looking for and capable of seeing. Shakespeare, theoretical genius. Shakespeare understood theater, he knows or he knew how to structure dramatic action for maximum emotional impact. He knew how to create characters that actors love playing and audiences love watching. He knew how to blend serious and comic elements. He knew when to move quickly and when to linger. This theatrical sophistication ensured that his plays work on stage. They're not just a literature, they're disguised for performances. The final insight, all the world stage and all the men and women merely players. This line from As You Like It suggests that human identity is both constructed and authentic, both performed and genuine. We play roles, the role of student, friend, family members, professional, yet these roles constitute our identity. We are determined by circumstances, yet we create ourselves through our choices. This paradox expressed too elegantly by Shakespeare remains true. Understanding Shakespeare helps us understand ourselves and each other. Why continue studying Shakespeare? For intellectual growth, engaging with complex texts develops critical thinking. For personal meaning, Shakespeare's themes illuminate human experience. For cultural literacy, Shakespeare is woven into English-speaking culture. For joy, Shakespeare can be funny, moving, inspiring, and deeply satisfying. For connection, studying Shakespeare connects you with 400 years of human engagement with questions that matter. Thank you for this journey that we had through the last 3 hours. But before this, let's go one more time to revise the last part. So, over 4 centuries after the death or after the death of Shakespeare, William Shakespeare remains the most performant playwright in the world, the most studied author in education, and a continuing presence in popular culture. This remarkable longevity testifies not to historical accident but to the genuine power of his works to illuminate human experience across wildly different contexts. Shakespeare's plays endure because they combine specific historical particularity with universal human concerns. Set in medieval Denmark or ancient Rome, Renaissance Venus or mythical Athens, his works nevertheless speak to fundamental questions that transcend any single time or place. How should we respond to injustice? What obligations do we owe each other? How do we navigate between self-interest and community responsibility? What makes life meaningful in the face of inevitable death? These questions remain urgent, ensuring Shakespeare's continued relevance. Moreover, Shakespeare works are genuinely inexhaustible. Each generation discovers new meanings shaped by its own concerns and values. Victorian readers emphasize the moral lessons. 20th century critics applied the psychoanalytical, feminist, Marxist, and the postcolonial theories. Contemporary audiences notice environmental themes, neuro-diverse characters, and the gender fluidity that early interpreters overlooked. This interpretive flexibility doesn't diminish Shakespeare, but confines his greatness. Truly significant works accommodate multiple valid readings rather than prescribing single meanings. For students, engaging with Shakespeare's offer multiple rewards beyond fulfilling curriculum requirements. His plays develop critical readings, skills transferable to any complex text. His poetry trains attention to language nuances, expanding vocabulary and rhetorical sophistication. His characters provide models for understanding psychological complexity and moral ambiguity. His themes encourage psychological thinking about perennial human questions, and his theoretical power demonstrates art's capacity to move, challenge, and transforms audiences. All the world stage and all men and women merely players. This famous line from As You Like It captures Shakespeare's profound insight into human existence. We are all performing roles, child, student, friend, citizen, shaped by social expectations and personal choices. Yet we are also authors of our own stories, making decisions that define our lives. Shakespeare understood that human identity is both constructed and authentic, profound and genuine, determined by circumstances and created through our actions. As you continue, your Shakespeare journey beyond this presentation approach his works not as intimidating classics requiring dutiful reference, but as living art, inviting active engagement, replays loud, watch diverse productions, argue about interpretations, right? Um, your own creative responses, find connections to your life and concerns. Shakespeare doesn't belong exclusively to scholars and theater professionals. His works are public domain in the deepest sense, available for anyone to explore, interpret, and enjoy. The plays and the poems that Shakespeare wrote for the Elizabethan audience continue to speak because they address not merely the surface concerns of his age, but the deep structure of human experience that unite us across centuries. In this work, we find ourselves reflected, our hopes and fears, our capacities for both curiosity and compassion, our struggles to understand ourselves and others through Shakespeare. We gain not escape from our world, but deeper understanding of it and our selves within it. This is the enduring gift of part of Avon as precious now, and when his words first sounded from the globe's stage, a clear vision of what it means to be human. So, thank you for your this journey through Shakespeare's life and work. I hope you've developed both appreciation for his achievement and curiosity to explore his plays yourself. Shakespeare is the best experience directly in performance or in close reading, not just through lectures like this one. Approach Shakespeare not as intimidating classics, but as a living art inviting active engagement. Read the plays, watch productions, perform scenes, argue about interpretations. Shakespeare reward engagement. Thank you, and I look forward to discussing these plays with you further.